really do appreciate you joining us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, we're broadcasting from the studio that they have built for us, and it is as good as there is, second to none. Everything you could want, we got right here, and it's one of one, really, and we're very proud of it. We're also very proud of this gentleman because he is one of one. He is the center for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is an unquestioned team leader, consummate leader, really. Leaders are people that lead on the foot. True leaders are leaders on the football field, in the locker room, in the community. They set an example to other players, other teammates, and how they live their lives, how they conduct themselves. What kind of a husband are they? What kind of a father are they? What kind of a teammate are they? And our guest, our special guest, very special guest, Ted Karras, is top shelf, top of the line, across the board in all those categories. He is a natural-born leader. What's up, my man?
Well, I'm always blushing after my In the Trenches intros. Thank you, Lap. Glad to be back. A little. We did a pre-summer check-in. Now we're coming in. Geez, we're like, 10 days out, 11 days out. Here we go.
Here we go. I mean, camp right around the corner. I guess I'd like to follow up a little bit on that leadership aspect, because you are, without a doubt, a great leader, one of the best in the league. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals are blessed to have a guy like you as a leader in that role. And as far as the offensive line is concerned, the center position, you are the point guard. I mean, you're the point person. You make all the calls. You get everything going on a snap-by-snap basis. You get everybody lined up properly, doing the right things, blocking the right people, all those sorts of things. Where does your leadership ability come from? I mean, is it something that was always ingrained in you? Was it developed? How did it kind of build over the years?
Well, I think, through my father and his coaching, just being around the game for, since I was a little guy, been around a lot of great teams, championship teams in his aspect. But I think really the most formative years were my first 4 in New England. And then, being in a role that was, a reserve role, with a lot of great leaders around me, and being, stepping up and, performing when my number was called. But really, those first 3 years of my career, got to observe a lot of great men, a lot of great football players, and compete in 3 championships and win 2. So I think, it's kind of when you see a lot of guys that come from New England, especially back in those days, it's kind of like a crucible of leadership. It's not talked about too much. It's just more of an actionable item. You come to work every day, you do your job, you trust the men around you, you build their trust in you, and, be a guy that the team can depend on. And I think just doing that naturally flows into, as now I'm in year 10 and a team captain, lessons and leadership traits that I now possess.
Yeah, in my opinion, my experience with it, the really good leaders, the true leaders, they're not like blowing a horn, or posting a poster or carrying a sign saying "leader right here," leadership. It's like they don't have to broadcast it. It just happens. I mean, true leaders, it's second nature to them. A lot of it is, I think, part of a personality, and you have a definite personality that is geared toward a leadership capacity. There's no question about that. But it's just doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, being on time to meetings, being on time to everything from an organizational standpoint, doing things the right way all the time. And a lot of people, that's a lot of pressure. But as with leaders, it's just, hey, that's just the way I live my life. And I think that the guys that have been, in my mind, the most effective and truest leaders, it's almost like I'm not doing anything differently. This is me. This is how I live my life. This is the way I am. This is the way I was raised. and it just it makes for unbelievably effective leadership. There's no doubt.
And it's galvanizing relationships with people. And I think vocal leadership is probably a necessary evil in our profession. Obviously, you need guys to talk, but those words don't hold any weight if you don't have relationships with your teammates, mutual trust, and also paired with you got to go out and perform your job at a high level. So I think those three things factor into effective leadership in the NFL.
That is something I think that it's like taken for granted. Like, yeah, well, he's a leader, but leaders feel a real sense of responsibility to play at a high level. I mean, whether they're a captain or a leader or not, they're gonna play at a high level. That's first and foremost. They got to go out there and play, go out there and perform, go out there and build a relationship with their teammates, that the teammates know that they can trust them, that they're going to be there every single game, every single snap of every single game, week in, week out, month in, month out, for an entire season. And then the other part of it, becomes an offshoot of that. I mean, it's like, I think true leaders show their leadership by their level of play, their commitment to preparing to get to that level of play, sustaining that level of play over a long period of time, over a long haul, consistency of performance. All these kind of things are, I think, form leadership. They're the crucible of leadership, as you put it so aptly. And you're all of that. I mean, you prepare for the game of football, like right now in the off season. You're in Florida, but you're working out. What? How many times a week are you going to a local high school and working hard and killing yourself out there in the heat to get ready for an NFL season? That's leadership.
Yeah, shout out Cardinal Gibbons High School. I usually just work out at Bayview Park, but their head track coach invited me onto their nice turf field facility. So
sweet.
Got to experience that. That was the first time I've been really invited into their nice facility. So it's been Cardinal Gibbons, great high school right down here in Fort Lauderdale, famous. I think probably their most famous NFL alum, Blair Walsh, for the kicker.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I mean, working out every day. My gym's right to my left here. So I'll go in there. I'm going to go in there right after this, get a little lift in the heat and get ready. I heard it's hot back in Cincy though too. So at least, but I don't think that sun's beating down quite like it is here in South Florida.
I'll guarantee you not. It is. It's in the 90s, low 90s here in Cincinnati. But I bet down there, what is it? High 90s, almost 100.
High 90s. Just I think the biggest difference in the conditioning is it's going to be hot everywhere in camp, but just that sun feels so close to you down here, so it's very valuable.
Humidity. How's the humidity down there?
No, it's humid. I mean, you're sweating every time you walk outside. So
right. There's no question about that. You mentioned your time in New England. And, I mean, to have the success that you had, 3 Super Bowls, winning 2 of them, great leader at the head coaching position in Bill Belichick, and he surrounded himself with a very, very effective coaching staff and unbelievably effective football players that were great people as well. And of course, Tom Brady, an extraordinary leader at the quarterback position. What did you learn from your time in New England that you have applied to your leadership post New England, when you've left New England to go elsewhere? What did you take with you from Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, and your experiences in New England?
Well, I think what we already talked about, which is, leadership isn't spoken about much. There's not like a leadership course you can take. It's trust building, it's relationship building, it's validity through performance, and it's doing your best when it counts the most. So, I think for a lot of teams and for just in football in general, it's hard for an O-lineman to be a true vocal leader because our job is very hard, very unique. It doesn't show up as far as unless it's negative, I would say. You can have some big impact blocks, but you just have to go, lead through consistency. I think Dave Andrews, who just recently retired, David Andrews, did a great job with that. I mean, he was an 8-year captain there, but not I wouldn't call him, Al Pacino rah guy, but he went out there and was available every single game, ready to go, and put out consistent performances that help the team win. And people within the organization will recognize that, but it's not like an O lineman. Most of the time, I would say, it has an easy job of leadership because our job is hard and publicly negative over half the time.
Right. Yeah. There's no question. I mean, I think let's move the leadership to the offensive line, and you're the captain of the football team. You're also the captain of the offensive line. That's unquestioned as well. And there's responsibility that comes with that in terms of, we talked about making the right call and getting people, blocking the proper people, and recognizing defensive configurations, alterations, changes in those defensive configurations, late in the snap count, when it's it's definitely a lot of things happening fast out there at that point. But you have to keep your composure, keep your poise, and get that aspect of it taken care of. What does it take to be a leader of offensive linemen? Is that a fairly, I'm not saying easy task, but I mean, offensive linemen from a personality standpoint, I think look for leadership. I think they're very coachable human beings. I think they want to be part of something better than themselves individually. They want to be contributing to the greatness of an offensive line, and then therefore hopefully the greatness of a football team. What's your leadership style for the offensive line?
Well, I think the first most important factor is knowing what to do and knowing how to do it. And as a center, our biggest job is distributing our blocking surface. So getting a hat on a hat, 5 guys with where they know where to go to the 5 guys that we need to go block, and how the combos interact with each other. I think there's many parallels to just, being a leader of the whole team. When you're the leader of the O-line, I would say it's easier going into year 10 than it is, when I was year 5 or when I show up year 7. Just your time in the league validates, some things you have to say. I think that, just the way that you do things, if you make it a decade in the league, are valuable for young guys to see. I think, a big thing I've always tried to do is bring the young guys along, make sure that, we have a long football season. We have 8 months, and, knock on wood, hopefully none of the reserves have to play. And so how do you keep guys engaged, focused, and enthusiastic for their task at hand? And I've been there, and I think that adds to how I can relate to these guys. I've been, a scout team guy for 8 months in a row, 3 years in a row. So, making sure that the young guys in the group, maybe the guys that aren't getting a ton of reps, are still engaged, enthusiastic, and, working on their craft to maximize their potential in their career.
So does your leadership, I'm not saying are there 2 forms of leadership, one for young offensive linemen, one for older veteran offensive linemen, but do you have a little bit different approach in terms of being a leader with those young offensive linemen, like you say, that don't know what they don't know yet? It's like they're coming into a scenario where, wow, I mean, so much to learn, so many questions to get answered, and you're a tremendous source for these young offensive linemen to tap into and go to. And hey, Ted, what about this? What do we do here? What do I need to do to get better here? How do I approach this? That is invaluable for young players. I had the benefit of that with a guy named Bob Johnson early in my career as a rookie player. I was like, hey, Bob, what the hell? What do I do here? I've never seen this before. I mean, this is totally foreign to me. Don't worry, we're good. We got it covered. All you have to do is do this, and if they do that, you do this. So it was an unbelievable comfort to have a guy like that to lean on. Do you cherish that approach, that role where young guys do lean on you when the going gets tough for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that, that goes with, we're going to show up in camp in 2 weeks. I think what you said, I'm very much going to be more on Dylan's performance than say Lucas, who's a 10-year vet.
Right.
I think that there's a there's a certain amount of edginess to developing a young offensive lineman, and it's an angry, violent position. So obviously I'll be less ready to critique Lucas or even myself than say Dylan if he makes a mistake. So, but I mean, we're all in the same boat here. This is a performance business, so it's not like there's no world where you're a 10-year vet and you're exempt from making mistakes. But I would think with these young guys, especially guys that are going to be in the fray with us, like Dylan, we're gonna be on them, early and often, as opposed to I'm not getting in Orlando's face. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You're right. I got you. Scott Peters, your new offensive line coach, extremely talented, very, very likable personality. I think for an offensive line coach, I think he is. What's the best way to put it? He's very, very energetic, very excited for his opportunity. There's no question about that. But he's not flying off the handle. He's not like Wang Chung as such. He's focused. He's driven. He's all those good things. And the jiu-jitsu part of it is an intriguing thing for me as a former offensive lineman. The fundamentals and the techniques that he will teach related to that aspect of being aware of your body and how to utilize it and how to break an opponent down with some of the fundamentals and techniques that he's going to be teaching. It's going to be fun to watch. Are you guys excited about what Scott Peters brings to the table for you guys?
Very excited. I think some of these techniques that he's shown, I haven't heard of in my time in the league. So actually, what I did was I hired 2 guys to hold bags for me and catch snaps out here at Gibbons High School because usually I have a good, you have the techniques that you've worked on and feel good about, for your career. And
right.
I wasn't like a heavy O-line individual guy in the summer ever, but based on the fact that these techniques are new, we got a new coach, we got to try some new different things. I didn't want to go into camp feeling like I hadn't repped them at all. So we've been out there before conditioning, repping some of these new Scott Peters techniques. So it's been very helpful. I feel like I'm in a great spot coming into camp. I feel well conditioned and ready to, perform these techniques at 100% speed, once we get rolling into training camp.
Offensive linemen always look for new tools for the toolbox. It's like the more ways you can skin a cat, as the old saying goes, the better off you're going to be, and it's not like Scott's not saying, "Hey, Ted, forget everything you've learned to this point." I don't want you utilizing anything that you've done in the past. I don't care if you were successful with it or not. And you've been extremely successful, obviously, going into your 10th year in the National Football League, executing things that you've been taught. And now you've been around for a while with different offensive line coaches, and you've got a pretty extensive toolbox. You got things that you've taken, from different coaches that you like, that work for you, that you have in your toolbox. And Scott's going to add to that. He's not looking to say, don't do any of that. You're just doing this. He is looking to add to the toolbox, isn't he?
Yes. And I think that there's some unique stuff too. And every O-line coach brings that. And, I've always believed it's a professional courtesy to at least show the new techniques on film to a new O-line coach, because that is his job, is to, your drills translate to the practice and game film. So that's where I wanted to be comfortable enough to go put these new techniques on film, especially early in training camp, and kind of work out, what is going to go into the toolbox, and, kind of figure out what are his non-negotiables of the techniques. And just, like I said, it's a professional courtesy, especially as the elder in the group, to, set an example that we are going to, learn this stuff and perform these techniques, even though they might be a little, I'm I'm actually very more comfortable with him now. This is great that I got to, work him in summer. And so I think he did a great job teaching, his philosophy in the spring. And I hope that everyone's ready to really hone in on techniques going into training camp, because I think we have a chance to be a plus unit when, everyone's counting us out. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Scott is a very educated man and well spoken, to say the least, and he's a good communicator. I think got a good personality. He gets his point across to you in a very, I think, effective way. His delivery, I think, is effective. I think he's not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. It's like collaboration, I guess, would be the word that comes to mind with him. And I imagine he is a very unique and good way of explaining why he feels that his fundamentals and techniques are a benefit, how they can help, but not in a way where it's like, look, I'm the guru, I'm the master, I'm the grand poobah. You guys are down here, I'm up here. That's not how he approaches things. He looks at everything. Everybody has been in the league for. If you made it in the league, you're a hell of a player, and you're doing it. You're getting it done with fundamentals and techniques that you've been taught, that you believe in and you can execute. And he understands that. So he's not trying to rock the boat, disrupt everything. He's trying to add to, right? Isn't that his mindset? Just kind of add to.
He is, and I really enjoyed this spring learning these new stuff, especially like some of the, the wrestling type stuff. That's not really my background. I've been pretty, I've been football my whole life. So, I think everyone's going to benefit. And I really think some of our younger guys, have gotten like a fresh start, new techniques with a new coach. And, I thought a lot of guys got better over the course of the spring. I think that had something to do with also we were, it was an uptick in tempo and repetitions, but also, I think these new techniques that Scott brings, his philosophy to, striking in the National Football League is going to prove invaluable as we go into, the 8 months ahead. And hopefully we're done in February and can look back and be like, wow, this really changed the culture of our room, our offense, and ultimately our team and organization.
I know Scott's a big believer in, esprit de corps, the offensive line having a mindset where everybody's playing for each other. The individual performance, it's important. Everybody has to play well. You want all five position players to play well, but you want it to all mesh into an outstanding performance as a group. You want that to be elevated. And I think he does a pretty good job of imparting that message in a very good way. And if you're not, doing your job well enough, he's definitely going to let you know, obviously, like any offensive line coach. I mean, he's big on, like everybody is, with that's been related or had some sort of responsibility with an offensive line, about, five guys working together, forming that fist, that strong fist. You don't want three doing the job and a couple not. You don't want, four doing the job and one not, that you can't have that strong, powerful fist. He seems to have a good way of getting that across, building the morale of an offensive line, the importance of playing together. Everybody's contribution is important to the success of the offensive line. I think he's very, very good the way he imparts that mindset.
I do too. I think he's been a great addition to our organization. I think it's been valuable to have him and come look at, from an outsider's view of who we are and what we've done and who we can be. I think we got some good, run game fundamentals, to try and establish an identity within our pass heavy offense. And, I think he's been a great leader to the group. And I think we brought in some great guys along with them. Every year there's turnover in the NFL, but I think that we have a great room that can go out and, prove all this negative media wrong.
I hear that, and I know everybody in that room looks forward to doing that. There's nothing better than proving the media wrong. I can, I can attest to that. Lived it, understand it, know exactly what you're talking about, my man. Uh, the interesting thing is Scott comes from New England, Jerry Montgomery as well, the offensive and defensive line coach, the new members of the coaching staff of the Cincinnati Bengals, the guys in the trenches at the line of scrimmage coaching that phase of things, both come from the same organization, the New England Patriots, and you guys played them in the opener last year, so you got kind of an up close and personal look at what those two guys are about. That's kind of an unusual occurrence in the National Football League, isn't it? That you get two coaches, particularly offensive and defensive line coaches, to come to your team from the same organization. They coach together, they game plan together, they scrimmaged against each other, they know everything there is to know about each other, and coming from that same organization to another, that's a big plus, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. And I love what Jerry brought to the D-line this spring. I think it's going to be an exciting training camp against his unit. I think that there's staff turnover every year in the NFL. If you look back at what happened in New England last year, I think from a football coaching perspective, that is very unique. Where they have a one and done type scenario of a whole staff. So,
right.
It was good for us. We got two, very high quality men to come in and lead our, line of scrimmage units. So, really excited about, what they have to bring. I think Jerry did a great job with some of our young guys. It's going to be head to head for the next 5 weeks between our units. So looking forward to it.
How is Scott in terms of when he's in, and I know you guys haven't had, real detailed and meetings where you've installed a whole lot of your offense yet. I mean, it's obviously a couple of weeks away from training camp. It's going to start though. I mean, training camp will start. You'll start installing, run plays in the morning and pass plays in the afternoon kind of thing, and build and build and build. From a philosophical standpoint, is his approach to coaching the offensive line markedly different than what you've experienced in the past? His schemes of double this and rub here, is he pretty standard in that regard, or is he unique in any area in that way?
I would say the most unique thing that Scott brings is the classification of strikes, and you can classify how you want to hit someone. With your hands, with your shoulder. There's just his strike system is very interesting, and I think going to prove very valuable. To kind of just even add a new layer to the language of how we talk about what we're doing. When we go out there, hey, let's go, this didn't work. Let's try, this strike on them with a double team. So, I think he provides a lot of solutions and a lot of organic creativity as far as being able to adjust to dynamic players, especially on the defensive line. So, I'm really looking forward to diving deeper into that. I mean, I think he did a great job installing. I'll give credit to this unit. I thought we had a very clean assignment spring, especially with a defense that we had not ever seen before. The last 3 years, you can kind of get into a rhythm of defensive installs, based on, what you remember from last year. And they have their, install calendar as well. So, we went out there this year and, kind of just not free played it, but we didn't know what defense was going to come out and line up. So I thought that was a very good exercise for me and for a lot of guys. And I thought the group had tested themselves well. And that is, a nod to Scott's teaching.
Organic creativity to utilize against defensive players. That is a great line right there. It shows intelligence. It shows vocabulary. It shows, raw intelligence and football intelligence. Ted Karras has got both, my man. You're a very unique individual, super smart in any way that's necessary to be super smart. When you look at it, how excited were you to see Netflix's presentation of Joe Burrow in that quarterback little feature that they're running. I've seen about 4 or 5 episodes now, and Joe is heavily featured. And Joe Burrow people knew that he was is a gifted thrower of the football. That his mechanics are second to none. His accuracy is incredible. I think people, had heard that he's competitive, but now you're seeing how competitive Joe could be, man. Joe is definitely, he's competing every minute of every single day, isn't he? I mean, there's when that camera's following you around everywhere. I mean, I'm sure you guys are probably like, I wish that camera wasn't in here right now, but it's catching Joe in all different environments and showing how competitive he really is.
No, I thought he came off great in the show, and I thought that between Hard Knocks and Quarterback, the producers of that show did a great job. Being very discreet. I think that what a great opportunity it was for Joe to show who he is. As far as from a kind of pull back the curtain type of scenario, and I thought it came off really well. And I'm really excited to go into this season. It's kind of fired me up for football. So we're going to enjoy our last 12 days, but still staying ready to go, and everyone's going to reunite here. And we have a really big formative year for Cincinnati ahead.
There was a few times where Ted Karras was on my TV screen in the frame, during that Netflix quarterbacks episodes, and I thought you came off very well. I thought that Netflix caught you in some situations that show the kind of football player and the kind of leader and the kind of person you are. I thought Ted Karras came off exceptionally well with Netflix.
Well, thank you, Dave. Yeah, I thought they did a great job. So I was glad that Joe ended up doing it, and I think it paints a lot of us in a good picture. No cameras around this year, so let's go win one.
I hear that. And you look at it offensively, man, you guys are stacked. You got players everywhere in the offensive side of the football, and areas that needed help. Say like the guard position, I would classify as one that needed help offensively, and with the free agency and the draft, it was addressed. There were additional people competing at those positions. Defensively, I thought in free agency and in the draft, that was addressed pretty darn well as well. Are you excited to see the new pieces and new components to your defensive football team?
I am. I think that TJ Slayton is going to be a big addition to how we want to play defense, especially in the AFC North. I really am high on this rookie, Demetrius Knight. I think that he's going to be, not only a dynamic player, but a good leader for many years for the Cincinnati organization. I think we have the guys to go out there and be, a top team in this league on both offense and defense. So, we have a big month ahead to prepare, get ready, and then ultimately go perform and start fast in September.
Yeah, that's obviously been the Achilles heel of the slow starts, and there's always many reasons for slow starts potentially, and injury is one of the big ones, and that's the biggest key in my opinion. Is like we talked about, all the gifted players offensively and the how new and improved the defensive football team is. If all bodies can stay on the football field for extended periods of time, if you lose somebody for a game or two, you can deal with that. But losing them for 6 or 8 games or a season, that's the kind of thing that can cause a big disruption, obviously. But if you remain healthy, I think this football team has a real shot, man. I'm talking Super Bowl. I think it can happen, don't you?
I always think it can happen, Dave. But yes, I think that we have a great team, and hopefully everyone had a great summer, comes in well conditioned and ready to go. And we need to go rattle off some wins in September, and set ourselves up at the top of the conference, top of the division, for the remainder of the year.
I mean, you look at it. I know the networks like what the Cincinnati Bengals have to offer. You guys are going to be nationally televised a bunch during this season, and rightfully so. That's been well earned and well deserved. But, Joe Burrow at quarterback, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins at the wide receiver position, Yosivas in the slot, Gesicki at tight end, Brown at the coming out of the backfield and running the football and catching the ball out of the backfield. Offensively, you guys are a juggernaut. I mean, you guys there are weapons everywhere. That's good TV. I mean, the networks know what they know what they want. They know what they're looking at. And Cincinnati is prime for fitting exactly what they want to present to their football fans.
And now it's on us to just go out and do it. So we look good on paper going into the season. Here we go. Let's put some in the left-hand column early.
I hear that. You're exactly right. I mean, I've been there myself. It's like, boy, man, you look at the schedule and you look at the football team and how you're doing in training camp. It's like, hey, we could be pretty good. And you hate to do that. I mean, I didn't do that early on. I was superstitious. I thought, hey, you do that, man, that's bad mojo. That's bad luck. But as I got into the league for a few years, I'd be like, oh, if we handle business, we could be a 10-4, 11-3 football team and maybe go to the Super Bowl. That's this time of year with a couple of weeks to go before you go to training camp. That's when everybody's juices are starting to flow, right? It's like, here we go. We got ourselves a good football team. We've got personnel. We've got people we know can play. We know people that have played next to each other and can make adjustments that way and see things through the same set of eyes. That's an exciting time right now before training camp starts, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And then everyone, you got to put things in a drawer, handle all your business, because we're going into a journey together that's going to require most, if not all, of our time. So everyone needs to handle their business. I'm going to be closing up here. Very excited for that. Really excited for the 2025 campaign.
Yeah, and finally, Ted, I know training camp can be a hardship. Obviously, you're away from your family and doing a lot of dirty work and that sort of thing. But the team bonding that goes on at training camp is vitally important to the success of a football team, particularly up front. Getting those bonds up front on the football field, and then it kind of leads to off the football field bonding as well, which is vitally important to the overall success of the football team. But feeling comfortable, knowing that the guy next to you knows exactly what he's doing, that you don't have to worry about him. Take care of your own business because he's fine. He's going to be taking care of his. That's what it's all about, right?
Building trust and repetitions and continuity, and that sets us up for good performance. But it's knowing your teammates, trusting them, and then going out and performing yourself to earn their trust in you.
Building trust through repetitions. That's what football's all about, my man. Ted Karras, summing it up once again. Professor Karras, I'm telling you, man, you get your PhD in football, bro. And every one of your teammates will say that. They're like, Ted Karras, the dude is so smart, man. I mean, you can't fool Ted. Ted knows he knows every single nuance of every single adjustment to make, man. And I'll tell you what, when you have a guy like that, Bob Johnson I referenced earlier, Bob was like that. He was very bright and saw the big picture of things and he understood the game, understood football, and you do at the highest possible level. And the Bengals are very fortunate to have Ted Karras, man, as a team captain offensively and then leading that offensive line up front. I know you're going to have another great year. Number 10, it's big. Good luck.
Thank you, Dave.
Can't wait. Can't wait for training camp.
Me neither.
Let's go. Dave Lapham here. While games are over for the season, there's no off season for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham or First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics gave away great prizes during the season, which will continue with exclusive content in the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. So please do me a favor, subscribe to In the Trenches, hit the like button, and visit the First Star Media Group YouTube channel for exclusive content and special giveaways.